You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group and co-hosts Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com, Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com, and Henry the Flowmaster Schwartz from Cboe. The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. Cboe's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Cboe Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively Cboe. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the Cboe products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back. It is Thursday. Did you miss us on Monday? Don't blame us, listeners. We were off for the Labor Day holiday, out of our hands, but now we're back and ready and raring to go. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as from the network, which got a little bit bigger yesterday. So we had a day off. We decided to add a new show for you folks, because why not? Coming back on Wednesday, not just with your usual dose of options boot camp, which you folks love, but of course adding a new edition, 17 and a half years in, and the network not just more popular than ever, but still growing like gangbusters, including adding a new show, the Futures Rundown, to the mix. People have been on me for years. When are you going to add a future show? When are you going to add a future show? The drumbeat just got too big, listeners. We could ignore it no longer, so we launched the Futures Rundown yesterday. Hopefully you had a chance to check it out. If not, it's waiting for you on this very feed. It's another reason why you should be subscribed to the full network feed at all times, listeners. Lots of good stuff popping up. You never know what's going to hit you on the old feed with our friends over there at Plus 500, breaking in newer players here in the U.S. future scene. And they wanted to break in by doing two iconic Chicago things. They sponsor the Chicago Bulls and us. Because when you think of Chicago, you think of those two things, neck and neck. So interesting stuff out there. A lot of fun to be had. A lot to dive into in the world of futures. So ask and you shall receive. And many of you have asked over the years. It is finally here. The Futures Rundown. Check it out wherever you get our content. It's up there, listeners. And I might be a little biased, but it's a fun one. So check that one out as we check out who's joining us here on the old program today. First, let's go out to the dark, the stormy, the hellacious shores of Maine, where we are joined once again by the rockingest of lobsters, Mr. Andrew Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. Mr. G, welcome back to the show. How did you celebrate the new show launch day yesterday? What was your celebration routine, sir?
You know what? I admit that I was amiss on your latest new show, your future show, which I'm sure will be quite popular like all your shows. So I wish you the best.
Should be.
I'm not like an OG, but I'm getting close now in years.
Yeah, when we add on new people, you're definitely an OG to them. So there you go, sir. You could say nana nana boo boo to you as we keep
I guess so. Once you're here 10 plus years, you're something.
Your grandfather did. Your grandfather did.
You get nice shirts every once in a while, you know.
Sometimes the shirts don't fit, but we adjust. We roll. We roll with the punches out there. By the way, that was gold, sir. The video of you pulling up that boulder. I'm still laughing just thinking about it. The little jaunty tune you put over it there. It was all gold.
Our guy that runs our media, our YouTube, Justin, he has quite a wit about him.
Because I didn't know you were a Cboe trainer. I thought you knew you were a Cboe trader. I didn't know you were a Cboe trainer.
I think it was supposed to be trader, but
I think it was supposed to be trader as well. But it's still
I did train a lot of youth to be floor traders in my day.
There you go. There you go.
Many moons ago.
So if you want to see Andrew pull up a rock using a winch with a jaunty tune, head on over there and check that out. And let's see who's joining us from the hinterlands of Chicago. We are joined once again by the uncleest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike Tosaw. Mr. Uncle Mike, welcome back to the show. How did you celebrate new show launch day yesterday, sir?
Well, it's kind of a private ceremony type of thing as to what I do, but
that's true.
Definitely
it is a private
proud to be a
moment.
part of the network, and very proud to. I'm an OG on this show, but I know I'm not a network. There's only one OG on the network, but and that's Mark Longo. But very proud to be a part of this network as always.
All right, and also joining us, not sure from where, but his name takes on a new literal meaning today. He is the Flow Master. Blood flowing from the old nose. I guess someone didn't like what you were saying today, Mr. Flow Master. Gave you a little shot across the brow. What happened?
I guess volatility has gotten to nosebleed heights. I don't know, but I'm doing okay now. But yes, I did have a little nosebleed. But I am at Cboe's New York offices, and it's a beautiful day in New York. First day of school for the public school kids here. So the subway was more crowded than usual with lots of young kids, including my daughter.
All right. Well, with the team assembled, I think the Flow Master going to survive the show. We shall see. We'll keep on rolling right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the trading block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the trading block, the portion of the show where we break down what the heck is trading out there. And you know what? I sound like a broken record now, but we got another interesting one on our hands out there today, listeners. It's been another interesting week. We're up, we're down, we're left or right, dogs and cats living together. Markets never really seem to know what they want to be at any given moment. And that is certainly the case again today. We started out of the gate pretty strong, looking pretty green, and then they just came for it all, smacked everything down, smacked S&P back below the 5,500 level. And then it looks like the bit was back in the teeth. Most of the major indices looked like they were about to turn green or getting close to it. And then we're kind of coming back at it again now. NASDAQ flirting with unched to slightly green now. But the S&P is still off 0.5%, and the Dow off about 0.75% right now. So it's kind of been an interesting roller coaster. When we get to some of the paper later on, you'll see stuff lighting it up out there as well. Russell 2000 off about 0.2% out there right now as well. So another one of those weird days. Is good news for the economy now? Is good news bad news? We're in kind of that weird environment out there right now where everything's being parsed into what does it mean for rate cuts and what does it mean for the economy as a whole? Will there be a soft landing? Will there be a recession? All these things going on out there. But it does seem like lately, after having just impressive, ridiculous, choose your adjective of choice, run of green is now starting to have a little bit more trouble holding on to these lofty heights. As we were saying on the futures rundown yesterday, maybe some interesting downside action in the offing. We were saying not that long ago on the show, of course, was a cheap time to buy some protection. Not quite as cheap anymore, but still, if you listen to us then, hopefully you got a nice little bit of protection in your back pocket for a rain. Maybe you already monetized it. You had a few opportunities since then. Either way, a long way around to saying the market's mostly red right now with the exception of the NASDAQ, which is turning positive. NASDAQ's been on its own weird tangent this week, which is the discussion in and of itself. As we get on out to VIX Cash. VIX Cash kind of also been all over the place today. Let's see really quickly. How high did our pal VIX Cash get? It got up to about 21.5. That's pretty much where it was right before showtime. As of right now, it's come back down to earth a little bit. About 20.75 as we're kicking off the show. That's still up over 5 points from where it was, about 5.5 points actually, from where it was, again, a week ago. No show on Monday, so that sounds like an enormous move. It is, but also we had no show on Monday, so that's a full week's worth of vol creeping in there. VVIX also getting a week's worth of action back and then some. VVIX back well north of the triple-digit level after flirting with getting back into the 90s. Back up to 123. It's up 27 handles from where it was this time a week ago. And also up to an interesting level, 125 for a long time in normal markets. And these are far from normal markets now, listeners. But in normal markets, VVIX used to vacillate between about 75 on the downside and about 125 on the upside. Once it got to 125, you're like, okay, it's probably going to top out here. A few times it could break through it, get up to maybe even 150 or so. But that was a relatively aberrant scenario. Now here we are, post-pandemic. Throw all rule books, all playbooks out the window. But back in the before times, this would have been a very key level to pay attention to. So a lot to unpack. Let's go out there again to the uncleist of Mike's, Mr. Uncle Mike Tosaw. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what is catching your eye out there in these very topsy-turvy, tumultuous markets?
Well, what's catching my eye is that when you have big rallies, you're going to get big pullbacks. And from there, if you go back to Friday, we closed on Friday at the SPX 56.48, and that is roughly 20 points below the all-time high in the SPX. And from there, it's obviously been quite the down week, these 3 days of trading with which we've had this week. But me being the ray of sunshine with which I am, the low that we put in back on August 5th was 51.19. And so considering, and I understand that that was from a drop as well, but considering how far we have come and how quickly we've come, I can't say that I'm really surprised with the market action that's happening right now. So, yes, there's news out there. Yes, there's things happening. We have rates. We have earnings not being spectacular. We have this, that, we have the other. But the bottom line is that when we're going this high, this hard in the marketplace, excuse me, you're going to have, Uncle Mike said there'd be days like this. And just the fact that on the year, we started the year out, let's just kind of take a look at the big picture here. But we ended last year at 47.69, and we're up well north of 10% on the year, which is the financial advisor average of what the market seems to do every year. At least that's what financial advisors like to say, even though that's clearly not the full story. We're still well above that right now. So the fact that this week has had the down weeks with which we've had, in that we were down over 100 points on Monday. We were down not quite as much on Tuesday. We were down a little bit yesterday, and then we're down 30 points on the day-to-day. It's really something to where I think we need to just continue to look at the big picture. Excuse me. Now, some other things to keep in mind, the VIX is over 20 again. That is kind of a big deal, and that 20 is a key number in VIX land. So I'll be interested to hear the Rock Lobster's take on the VIX action and what's happening there. We are rallying today in precious metals and silver. So one of the things that is showing in the market kind of is showing its hand a little bit, at least today, in that silver silver was down Tuesday, relatively flat on Wednesday, and then it's up on the day-to-day. So money is going somewhere. what always kind of makes my head scratch a little bit is when we have a down market and we're seeing down everything, but that's not the case here. Gold's been relatively flat throughout the week this week. And then silver is having the rally today. And then the thing that I would like to point out right now is that the bond world, in the bond space, with where we're at in terms of buyers and sellers, and looking at where we are right now, we are up a little bit in the bond space. And so, and not the yield is down, the prices are actually higher. So we are getting a little bit of money going into bonds. We're getting a little bit of money going to places with which you can see it. So we're not playing the mystery game of where's the money going to appear in the next few days anymore, because money has gone places. And so I think it's just going to be interesting to see how we can react to this, in that this is a time to where we have a little bit of a pullback, nothing major, but money has appeared at other spots. Now, in terms of the stock market itself, I think the main thing with which we need to continue to look at, as we're going through these, are some of the bigger tech names. So Microsoft is still not treading water, but Microsoft is still above 400. The big name with which we all talk about right now, NVIDIA. NVIDIA is it's still above 100. It's at 106 right now, but it's definitely not in the 120s like it was. And I think we still need to just continue to keep an eye on and monitor those larger stocks that have been pushing up the market as much as they have. So all in all, what I'm saying right now is that we've had a lot of rally. You got to take your medicine sometimes, and pullbacks happen. That's what I'm seeing.
Uncle Mike says, open up wide and take your medicine, kids. As we keep on rolling. That's the kind of thing I expect to hear from the Rock Lobster, not the ray of sunshine here on the show. Speaking of the Rock Lobster, I have invoked him, so now I am legally obligated to let him go next. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, are you too taking your medicine, and do you like it, sir?
I have to say, I have had weeks of trading better than I have the last week. I have been a little stingy closing VIX puts when they made me money. And I am paying a slight price for it right now, so giving back some of the month. But however, we have the curious artifact of a flat VIX curve but backward to cash, I believe, for every term. So. And I got this question on Twitter today from somebody, like, what's the most important thing when you're trading VIX? And so, and what I guess the thought that I thought was most important is, like, when is there going to be inflections? So anytime you have like a curve change, direction change, or zone change, volatility in general, when you're trading it, it's kind of like a ball rolling down the hill. So you would remember, like, when they were crushing vol and you're standing on a Cboe floor, or maybe Henry was upstairs just dumping calls on us, you can feel the vol getting smeared. Like it's definitely, like, it's just, it's coming in. And flip side, when vol's going up, all of a sudden the offers for options just become like, I call them jello markets. You just put your finger in them. You see the market, but, if you don't lift the offer as a retail person, you're like, why didn't I get filled? And then all of a sudden the offer's higher. Then, vol's going up. So it has that, but when all three together, so when you're like, VIX is actually kind of moving a lot up, and then the direction changes, then the curve is starting to change. You're starting to see the liquidity providers adjust to a changing, what they perceive, or what liquidity, or papers telling them that the market's moving a little more. Either it's going to move a lot more, or it's going to move a lot less. So, like, and right now you're in what I would call, the curve is in the confusion zone, where VIX vol, as measured by VIX, is it's 21, almost 21. You're backward the whole curve, but the front end of the curve is not higher than the rest of volatility. Now you have that weird artifact because of the election in October, but like normally, if people are freaked out, the front end is very high because, vol in the short term and all the shorter terms is higher than the back. Like we're expecting more vol in the short term is the simple way to think about it. And that's usually kind of bullish VIX. Even though all the futures are below where the cash is, it's more bullish VIX when we're backward because the market is signaling short-term volatility. How long does it last? I don't know, right? Because everybody knows that when volatility is high, it will come back eventually. It's just how long, right? How long do we stay backward? And, this week it kind of started off, we had that rally to all-time highs, SPX, or very close to it on Friday, right? We had that squeeze, and then Tuesday just a smearing. And I think somebody said the recession word again, I believe, I'm not quite sure what it was, but maybe Mike or Henry saw it. And then, okay, now we have the numbers coming out. So there was nothing to hold the market up. And in an absence, in an information vacuum, SPX tends to do what it's been doing, or, just recently, which all of a sudden now it's down. Anyway, and that's why we have generally higher VIX, but we don't have as high a short-term vol as I think we should have for this level of VIX cash. I feel like it should be higher. So as basically the market's like, okay, vol's up here. If you want it, come and get it. But there isn't the need yet. Maybe again, it could be an offshoot of the 0 DTE volume that comes into the SPX, but like those midterms and volatility are not super bid yet. And that when it's super bid, then you see, then we have the more 1.5-2% days that you get when you see a higher VIX number. So I would say the market is in a very odd state. And even recently, we've seemed to have bounced out of these payroll numbers, and the ADP number was weak. So we're not really adding jobs very fast anymore. So I guess the higher rates seem to be doing their job. And we'll see how fast the Fed decides to lower if they blink. If all of a sudden you blink and you have emergency rate cut, what happens? I think we have an algo-driven huge rally, and then everybody's like, why are they cutting rates? And then we sell off again. So I could see that scenario playing out. But I think that's where we have. So we have a very unstable volatility curve, and even I don't know if Henry's going to show this today, but I thought there was a 50,000 lot straddle that went up in VIX for around $4.20, something like that, in September, which I was a little surprised because that was pretty aggressive for just 2 weeks to go. And I wasn't sure which side it went on. I just saw the volume print, and it was pretty substantial. So I'm like, whoa. But I haven't gotten any more information on that. So maybe the Flow Master will, once he kind of cleans himself up, give us a little info on that one. But a very odd VIX curve. And like I said, you could be 5,600, 5,400 in the blink of an eye with the way the market feels right now. Oh, and we do have some VIX color. So I'm going to be quiet and let the Flow Master do his thing.
We do have some VIX color because there is some VIX going up out there. I'm not sure if you've noticed. It's an intriguing one. Mr. Flowmaster, I have bought you as much time as humanly possible, sir. The microphone has now turned to you. What is catching your eye out there, sir, as you wipe off the blood?
Yes, I'm doing okay. Things have calmed down. It is a very active day in VIX, and I was just using that Cboe open close data to kind of double check side of market on which side was the customer. It was the straddle. There was a buyer paying $435 for 50,000 of these September 20 straddles. That was in the first half hour of the day. I'm just triple checking to make sure that it is opening. I'm guessing it's opening Sep 20s. While I confirm that, there have been a couple other large large adjustments in there. And, we did see some VIX positioning in July that obviously paid off very well, very briefly in that pretty violent sell-off in early August. And at first I was thinking maybe this trader was kind of reloading, but I think most of the big trades that we're seeing in VIX have been closing. There are a couple 1x5s in the D20 42.5 and the March 20 42.5. Those actually look like they're closing to me. And then the other really big one was a 4-way. Basically, the SEP 25-45 call spread in VIX traded 120,000 times, and the NOV 35-55 call spread also traded kind of almost in that size. There's a little bit of ratio to it. I think that's closing all the way around. So, and that straddle, sorry, I'm having trouble figuring out which line I'm looking at. That straddle was opening as well. So, and in fact, it has become an interesting market. I mean, I was just writing up like an index summary for we have an index scorecard at the end of the month. So for, August was a weird month, right? We started out terrifying, and then by the end of the month, everything was rosy again. And it does feel like things have gotten a little bit rocky again. There's no more, I don't think there's any more real economic news coming out this week, but it's I agree. Everybody's kind of like, well, did the Fed wait too long? That's what everybody's talking about. The other thing that's kind of interesting is, we spent most of this year talking about how put call skew was, super duper flat. Nobody was buying puts. It was, kind of had been hanging out very, very flat for well over a year. We're actually kind of back up towards the steepest levels we've seen, even not quite as steep as that August 5th and 6th, but basically almost back up there. So, definitely more fear out there. I agree with what Andrew and Mike were saying, which is, we're still having a very solid year for the market. So, there's some people that are kind of looked at that sell-off in early August and the vol spike that came with it, which was really kind of outsized compared to what we usually expect, and thought that might have kind of been a consequence of some real complacency, where a 3 or 4% move, it's a big move, but it does happen. And to kind of get to see what we saw happening in VIX and liquidity, really did tell you that some people didn't really know what to do. Things now, vol's back up above 20, and I'm not going to claim that it's going to stay there all year, but it's a little bit more kind of, we've realized around 16 vol over the last few weeks. So, I kind of just think it's at a healthy level. And, it's certainly keeping things very active.
Well, you liked VIX over 20 a month ago. You got to love it now for the rest of the year, right? That's just a done deal. Since we're talking numbers really quickly, Mr. Flowmaster, the numbers are in for the month of August from our friends over there at OCC. Let's see how they came in, listeners. Let's take a look. See how they came in out there. And, I was expecting, a lot of people were expecting a banger out there in August. And we did get a banger. I think I was also surprised, though. And again, there's so many data points coming at us day after day and week after week that it all tends to blur together. I forgot how much of a banger August of last year was. That's probably the biggest surprise to me on this, because we're up, but only up net 4.3%. I thought it would be much more than that. But I mean, 1.06 billion, almost 1.07 billion contracts with a B. Anything that has a B handle in it, listeners, in terms of volume, that's a banger month. But last year, August 2023, also a 1 billion contract month. I need to go back and look and see what was driving all that flow last August, because I don't think we had as many size market shakeups last year as we did this August, but still intriguing stuff out there. Some highlights: equity options up 7.4%. ETF options, kind of one of the lone dark spots, off 1.2%. Index options up exactly 10%, so renewing their climb after taking a bit of a hiatus. Total overall options volume up 4.1%. Even the futures, which again is mostly VIX futures, listeners, also getting a nice pop, up 26.4%. So The numbers were hot. I'm just surprised, Henry. Do you recall August of 2023 being as much of a banger month as it clearly was, sir?
I don't remember what was going on in August 2023, but I did notice this was the first time we've had back-to-back billion contract months. So, because July was also over billion contracts. So no, I don't remember if things were getting crazy last August or not. But I mean, it kind of feels like this is, we're going to see more of these, especially into year end, I think. So, I think the billion that's like the new baseline.
I like it. We should all be so lucky if the billion is the new baseline out there. The whole market was doing 3.5 billion just a few years ago, Now we're talking $1 billion plus a month, sir. Just, again, if you wonder why people who've been in the options game for a bit, listeners, are still kind of mystified at this volume, myself included, that is why. Let's keep on rolling. Speaking of volume, Henry and the Rock Lobster kind of let the cat out of the bag. VIX, bit of a banger today, listeners. You look at VIX right now, you think, oh my God, the sky is falling. What the hell is going on? Because, the markets are moving, as I said earlier, and we are back to kind of fully green across the screen now. VIX cash at about a 21 right now, but it's not whipsawing that much. We're not selling off 3-4%, anything like that. And, this time of year, August done, September starting to creep in, markets starting to come back to life a little bit. You might be forgiven for expecting maybe 500,000 contracts in VIX. A pretty active day, 800,000. Things are really lighting it up. 1 million contracts. Throw all that out the window, listeners. 1.7 million contracts on the tape right now in VIX. So just a banger by any stretch of the imagination. By now, if you've been listening to Vol Views for a while, that's obviously driven by a bunch of paper. VIX has that tendency. It could be a very sleepy day, and then bam, it could turn on a dime with some massive prints that really juice up the volume. The Rock Lobster already talked about that size SEP 20 straddle. That's 100,000 contracts right there. 59,000 of the SEP 20s and 50,000 of the SEP 20 puts, so 109,000 right there. But that's not even breaking into the top 5 today, listeners. The big dog is this SEP 2545. I guess looks like opening on the nove here. At least that's what the Flowmaster system is telling me. He says it looks like it's closing though, so we'll have to dig in a little more and see. But SEP 2545 versus, or maybe taking both off, nove 35 double. Makes a lot of sense to me as a roll, though, because they're moving up strikes. But anyway, 271,000 of the SEP 45s for number one, 232,000 of the SEP 25s. So taking that all off the table, that's 500,000. That's 500,000 contracts right there, listeners. That's a day in and of itself. That's a quiet day in VIX right there. And then 229,000 of the SEP 30, NOVE 35, so number 3. 172 of the NOVE doubles for number 4. So then you're talking another 400,000. There's 900,000 contracts right there. And then just for fun, why not 100,000 each of the DECE and March 42 halves. So that's another 200,000. I mean, we're just got to go all the way down to even get to that straddle out there, listeners. So VIX lighting it up out there today. Just a banger. Some fun to talk about probably on Vol Views tomorrow as well. But yeah, I don't know. Mr. Flowmaster, you think that's closing on the node? The Flowmaster platform is telling me opening, sir, and I tend to believe the Flowmaster.
First, let me go back to that straddle because I finally figured out what I was confused on. That was a closing buyer, which is a little interesting because I think I am not exactly sure. It looks to me like they actually sold it in early August, right when we had the spike over that weekend, but I think they sold it. They actually survived it going up to about $10 on them. They sold it like at around 4-ish. But you can kind of see the open interest didn't really go down. And basically now they're finally getting out of it. So they kind of held their breath. And maybe today kind of spooked them a little bit and they decided they don't want to keep it any longer. On those 120,000 lots, I do think it's closing. Even though the volume at this point exceeds the open interest, because there does seem to be maybe some kind of trading back and forth on it, or maybe somebody that missed the print wanted to retrade it because you've got almost 200,000. I don't know. I know that the SEP is closing, and part of that November's closing as well.
Well, we shall see tomorrow, listeners, on Vol Views, what the truth holds in store for us. Let's get out to the rest of the market, then we'll get into some of the more fun with the Flowmaster. Let's get out number 10. Is it a banger day on single names? The answer is kind of. 216 I'll let you judge whether that's a banger or not. It's not 150. It's also not 350. So hanging out, not even really in the middle. So towards the lower end of the range, I suppose. Number 10, it's our old friend, the artist formerly known as Facebook. 515.10 right now, up 236 or about 0.5%. Again, good for 216,000 contracts. And the number 10 spot, number 9, Delta Airlines. Going to kind of breeze through these a little bit, listeners, because we've already been talking about a lot of fun stuff already. Delta Airlines, number 9, 42.90, up $0.50 or 1.25% today. Good for number 9, 221,000 contracts. Number 8, AMD, 139.5, off $1.30 or nearly 1%. Good for, again, number 8, 230,000 contracts. Number 7, APA Corp. Oh, this is Apache. They're, the hydrocarbon exploration folks. This is the holding company that owns them. Ticker symbol APA, 2614. Not a banger day underlying wise, up about 0.25 point or about 1%, but good for 241,000 contracts. So the game is afoot out there in Apache. Maybe we'll find out later this week what they were up to out there. No time today. Number 6, it's NEO, 270,000 contracts. I haven't seen NEO back in the top 10 in a while, but back there today, 466, up about 40 cents or nearly 10%. So nice little pop out there for NEO today. Good for number 6, 270,000 contracts. They just had earnings, so that's clearly what's driving that. Number 5, it's Intel, my old stomping grounds, firmly ensconced in the top 10 yet again. Number 5, 446,000 contracts, $19.50, up $0.10. I believe some analyst was raving about them last week, and that's really got everyone a Twitter about Intel these days. You know the analysts. Number 4, Amazon, 470,000 contracts, 176.90, up about 360 or a little over 2% for them today. Good for number 4, 470,000 contracts. If you like tech names, I got another one for you. It's Apple. Number 3, 571,000, up about $2, trading 222.80 right now. So nice little day for Apple out there. 571,000 contracts. And the number 3 spot, number 2, number 1, you know what they are. Number 2, it's Tesla. 2.2 million contracts on the tape. 228.83, up almost $9.50 or a little over 4%. So popping hard today. And they even got up higher. They got up to 235 exactly this morning. So they've sold off about $6 from the high, and the low was 222. So they've had nearly a $13 range on the day. So Tesla swinging hard, swinging wild today. And the number 1, you know what it is. It's NVIDIA, 106 2/3, up about 40 cents after having a beat down of a week, off 12% or nearly 15 handles. They're getting a little bit back today. Good for number 1 today. Pretty light out there for them today as well. 2.9 million contracts on the tape. Earnings, we still had Dick's and Dollar Tree and NEO today, as I was just talking about in Broadcom. Tomorrow, Big Lots, if you want to check out such things. Our earnings season hanging out right now, listeners, at, getting some juice back, 124%. We were hanging out back around 112 for a while. Now back up to 124%. Will the season end there? I guess we'll find out. But now it's time for us to keep on rolling, see what the Flowmaster has on the docket. Aside from daubing all the blood, it is time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, listeners, let's see what the Flowmaster can fix his gaze upon in between the blood red haze that obscures it today. Let's go out first to Unity Group, ticker symbol UNIT, UNIT, trading 5 1/3, up about 2/3 or about a little over 13% today. So a nice little pop for them. This provides the infrastructure that connects the world, at least according to them. So there you go, listeners. Good day for them. On the year, this last couple of months has really salvaged their year. They were trading 560 a year ago, so they're still down on the year, about 5%. But they were down much more. Towards the end of June, they were trading around $2.50. So they have more than doubled just in the last couple of months. So whatever was ailing them seems to have been mitigated out there as well. They got a new contract, looks like yesterday, so that's clearly helping them. Mr. Flowmaster, sir, what did you spot out here in everyone's favorite Unity Group, sir?
Yeah, this is not a name that I'm super familiar with, but what I noticed was just very heavy volume and a lot of directional call buying. Basically, the October 5 and 5 half calls are kind of the focus. Basically, and most of the flow is actually in the. It's actually about 20, a little bit over 2,000 of each. Basically, what we saw was in the first 10 minutes, or right after 9:40 New York time, a buyer of 1,500 of the Oct 5 calls for 55 cents, another 2,500 right after that, and then also about 15 minutes later, we saw a buyer of the Oct 5.5 calls paying 40 cents. Stock was a little bit higher, so stock right now is up 13%. I saw the description said something about fiber, so maybe it's somehow AI-ish, offshoot related. But just very heavy volume. Basically, we see vol up almost 12 points to 73. The skew is inverted, which meaning that the calls that it's the upside calls that are kind of in demand, or at least implying kind of a higher probability to that direction. So. I'm not sure if there's a catalyst in it, but it's definitely worth keeping an eye on, especially when you're in kind of a weak little microclimate for equities right now.
Now, this name did sound familiar to me, so I did go look, and we talked about this, the Rock Lobster and I, back on the August 9th episode of Options Oddity. Someone was coming in then and also scooping up some upside to the tune of 5,684 of the SEP 5 calls. They lifted the offer for 15 cents when the stock was 4.25. So those are obviously looking pretty good right now, listeners. They liked it so much they came back in and did a total of 13,000 on the day. So someone has been on this Unity tip for a little while, and I guess finally getting the move they were looking for. Mr. Rock Lobster, do you recall this trade we talked about with the SEP 5s about a month ago? And then what do you think about the Flowmasters OC 5s and 5 halves, sir?
I keep confusing this one with Unity, the symbol U. Isn't that another software company? I got all my Unities confused. Again, look interesting, but but this kind of paper, like Henry says, I got to get the right Unity. I keep going to U. The Unit E group. It's really, really big call buying in a name that's kind of been just kind of smacked around a little bit. So I don't think they're unreasonable calls to purchase. But I'm trying to think, the stocks just had like a $1 run. So I don't know if they're covering, closing, whatever they're doing on it, but it's like, crazy volatile. It was $3.50 and now it's $5.50. So is it a squeeze or what is, I guess, my big question. So, but it does look like it wants to go higher.
Let's see if our next name wants to go higher as well. If you're not tired of U tickers, listeners, we got another one for you. It's United Airlines. You know it, you love it. Maybe you hate it. Ticker symbol UA. I was just talking on Options Oddities. I believe it wasn't Delta, which was it American? Maybe someone was betting on one of these major airlines to get cut pretty much in half by December. But I'll have to go. I think it might have been American. But I digress. I'll have to go look at the paper flow. So much flow comes across our desk every day, listeners. Let's go out to United Airlines today. UAL, you know it, you love it. $45.50, up nearly $1.50, or a little over 3% today. So nice little pop for them today. On the year, they're still down about $3, or about exactly 6%, even though they have bounced off their lows, which were $33.90 back right around Halloween of last year. And then they're also off their highs of about $56, which they hit back in May. So off their lows and also about $10 off their highs where they're hanging out right now. They also crushed it down to about $37 and change back on the big meltdown on August 5th. So they have rallied and recovered from that as well. Mr. Flowmaster, sir, what did your eye of the Flowmaster spot out here today in United Airlines, sir?
So this one was really interesting because what we started seeing was a whole bunch of out of the money 46 half calls being bought. These are the September 6th, so the tomorrow expiration. A buyer came in pretty aggressively, paying like 20 cents up to 40 cents for a total of around 20,000 of them. The stock was under 46 when they started, and it got up as high as I saw it get up as high as like 46.30 ish. Not enough for them to kind of be in the money on them. But for a one-day trade, that's a pretty good amount of capital to throw at something. Now, the shares slipped, so like they're trading around 22 cents. So they're down. Their average is probably in the 30-cent range. So they're down about 50% on the trade. But I'm not quite sure. Somebody's really looking at tomorrow for some reason in United Airlines. And it is opening. It's new paper, so just a funky one. I didn't do anything myself on this one, but because it's a pretty large stock. I don't know if somebody would be doing this if they really knew something, but it's just an interesting one. Very directional. People that faded it and sold into it did really well.
Yeah, one day swing for the fences. They had their moment in the sun. Stock got up to about 46.5. So. Yeah, the 23-cent kind, you probably could have done something with those, but it seems like that moment has passed, at least for now. Mr. Flowmaster, they flew too close. I should say Mr. Rock Lobster. They flew too close to the sun. Seems like they're getting burned right now, but still one day to go. What do you think, sir?
Flying too close to, you know what? You look at UAL and American Airlines, and you're like, oh my gosh. Planes are full, but they don't like the stocks. So here again, they're just buying a bunch of calls, and are they running out of time? But man, it's pretty kind of heavy call buying, is what I would say here. So is it? They got a shot. But they're going to need a little help here. They need a big number to come out. But I think it's a little flying. I think it's a little too close to the fire, though.
Yeah, one day to go. They gotta move. Speaking of move, really quickly, it was American Airlines we profiled in Options Oddities last Friday, listeners, and they were the DC5 puts going up through the offer over 22,000 times when the stock was $10.50. So somebody out there looking for perhaps some aggressive downside to go in American Airlines. But Mr. Mr. Flowmaster, before we get out of here, I know you also spotted something in your beloved LUMN. You're like the LUMN watch now every week, sir. What caught your eye in LUMN?
Well, so I looked. The trade that I saw today is this. I was about to say a stupid one. Maybe it's not stupid. Maybe they know something. But here's today's trade. So the stock's at $5.50. It was up like $1 yesterday, and I was trying to figure out why. But somebody sold almost 50,000 the December 2026 one strike puts for 18.5 cents to open. And it can't go below zero. So I guess it's a kind of simple risk reward of, you collect 18, maybe 17 after commission. That's all you can make. But I guess you can only lose 80 cents if it actually were to disappear. But it's just a strange one. We don't usually see something that's 80% out of the money being sold and pretty decent size.
Yeah, you got to have some confidence that LUMN's going to be a going concern through 2026. Apparently, apparently they do. Yeah, you're right. We don't see that too often. Usually, we see the other way. Actually, we see buying of those, and even the half strikes. I've often speculated with those that's just the CDS traders just hedging themselves against a catastrophe, and they have the money to burn because they sell those things for so much money. But yeah, selling the one put for 2026. That's a long time to draw that line in the sand and a name that could go the way of the dodo tomorrow out there. Mr. Rock Lobster, really quickly, any thoughts on a very long-term line in the sand in LUMN, sir?
Haven't we covered this one before?
Oh, many times. It's the Flowmaster's pet name.
This is I'm just trying to check out the let me see here. I didn't see the note on it. This is another because I'm looking at this. Well, there's a line in the sand, but there's also did Henry did he look at the short calls or a put trade in here? Because I'm looking at all kinds of call volume going up like crazy right now.
He's saying a long-term Jan 2026 put right.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, yeah. Okay. because there's all kinds of there's the one puts going up. So I don't know what the heck is going on in this stock.
That would be the one. Actually, it was D's of 2026. It was D's of 2026. Yes, sir.
Oh, D's. Yeah,
That's the one, sir.
I mean, I guess if you want to go after the one puts, I don't know. Sometimes it's hard for me to get in the mind of some of the, what some people want to do there. But I guess, you want to, there's a bid for them, 15 cents. They're selling, they're 18, 19 cents. So
you really want that 18 cents?
I guess.
You really want that 18 cents for the next couple of years, all the way out to December, not even Jan of 2026, December of 2020. That's a long way to go, listeners. Would you be willing to backstop LUMN as a going concern that length of time? I don't know. We'll find out. And it's time to find out what we're keeping an eye on as we go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right. After all that madness, we are overdue for a dose of optimism, even though he wasn't that optimistic earlier in the show. What did he say? He said, shut up and take your medicine, right, Mr. Uncle Mike? Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, while we're taking our medicine, what are you keeping an eye on until the Monday show, sir?
Well, I mean, I think we need to, from a technical standpoint, one of the things we have to watch is to see on the S&P, are we going to go much lower? Because we're at 5450, which is roughly 60 points below where we are now, seems to be somewhat of a level of support. And with the S&P down 9 right now, that could be the next level of support. So I'm kind of watching that for the time being, and then continuing to watch the action in bonds. I think that's where bond traders are going to be smarter than stock traders in this environment. So I'm watching bonds very closely as well.
Yeah, I should mention here at the end of the show, we have whipsawed again. NASDAQ up about 0.4%. S&P still off, but off less, off about 0.15%. The Dow off about 0.45%. And our old pal VIX Cash coming back off the 21 handle down to about a 20 3/4 right now. Mr. Rocklop, the same question for you. What are you keeping an eye on, sir, until the Monday show?
Oh, don't we hit the non-farm payroll number? We already know that, all the employment reports were, they revised by what, 1 million jobs or something I can't remember how big the revision was last month. And we had slightly lower numbers. So, maybe, again, watching the non-farm payroll number, the market doesn't seem to care, and I feel like the market wants slightly lower rates at this point, and maybe that'll make it happy in the short term. But tech has still been the mover. So it's how tech responds to it. Really, I think is where we end up going. So, but yeah, non-farm payroll tomorrow, and let's see if VIX can break this kind of not nasty 4-day week.
And Mr. Flowmaster, before we send you back around to go seek first aid, what are you keeping an eye on till your next appearance next Thursday, sir?
I mean, I think I'm going to be kind of watching, if this is, I'm not a technician at all. However, it does kind of feel like we kind of hit some upside resistance, and now we're kind of just, maybe finding some support as well. We just kind of seem range bound. One thing I'm going to be digging into a little bit is the age-old question of sticky strike vol changes versus sliding skew, especially in SPX, which is kind of always a question. But like when you see the kind of, you see a sell-off and VIX goes up a couple points, you can look at yesterday's prices and say, was this priced in? And, in which case, you basically this index went from 5,300 to 5,250, and there was some vol difference priced into those two different strikes. The way that it really behaves is, depending on how fast we move, vol shocks up, and if we move really slowly, the curve kind of comes with it. So I'm just going to be kind of refreshing what I can in terms of the data and the behavior to basically just to kind of see what kind of regime we're in. Is the market really kind of on pins and needles? That's kind of what it feels like. Is we're all watching. Everybody's trying to figure out what the Fed's going to do. Everybody's trying to figure out if the Fed has blown it. And so, I think things could change very quickly, and that's what I'm going to be working on.
That's what he's working on, listeners, and we're working on rolling on into the next show here on the network. Twifo coming up. I'll be joined a rare appearance by the once and future Dr. Vix on Twifo. I think he was a little jealous he didn't get appointed to the hot seat on the inaugural episode of the Futures Rundown. You know, that's kind of a big deal. You know, you get the inaugural episode of the launch of a new show. That's like tombstone level stuff. That goes up there. You know, I was the inaugural guest on this show. You can't take that away from me. He got beat out by his good buddy, Miss Carly Garner, so I'm sure that will be a discussion/debate. Maybe I'd have another debate between those two on our Pro Q&A. We will see. But Russell will be joining me in a few minutes on Twifo to break down all the vol in the world of futures options. And spoiler alert, I should say. Spoiler alert. There is a lot of it to get to. But before we get there, let's go around the horn. Mr. Flowmaster, sir, as you go to seek first aid in Cboe East, before you do that, tell us really quickly, if folks want to check out what's cooking in the land of Cboe, maybe check out your cool flex post from last week. Where should they go? What should they do?
I did put up a really nice kind of history of Flex and how we present the data now. That's at you should probably just Google Cboe Insights blog and you'll find it. It's somewhere on Cboe.com, but I don't know exactly how to get to it. And for any of our platforms or data, you want to trial anything, just come to Cboe.com/RMA, which stands for Risk and Market Analytics, and we will be happy to help you out.
There you go, Cboe.com/RMA. Check out his insights. We talked about it on the show last week. Great visuals there as well if you want to see what's lighting up the world, the flex. And spoiler alert, there's a lot. Check it out over there, Cboe.com, the place to go for all of it. And Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, where should they go if they want more Rock Lobster goodness in their lives?
Go to optionpit.com. You can try any of my products and services, which are amply and more than paying for their initial cost this year. Which is what we try to do. Earn while you learn at optionpit.com. You get 10% off any show, anything that any product I have at OptionPit. And look for something new from us coming soon. There you go.
There you go. OptionPit U. Get your sheepskin now over there, listeners. And Mr. Uncle Mike, I don't think you have a sheepskin to offer, but they want to take their medicine with you. Where should they go? What should they do?
Follow me on Twitter at Mike Tosaw, Tosaw, or if you are looking for a financial advisor, would love to have a conversation with any of our audience members, sign up on my website, stcharleswealth.com.
That could be a new t-shirt for you to offer on the website. Shut up and take your medicine, and a big picture of Uncle Mike with like a spoon. What do you think? Does that sound good? Good branding?
The old castor oil.
There you go. Take your medicine with Uncle Mike. stcharleswealth.com, or check out a webinar. You can follow him at Mike Tosaw, Tosaw, all one word on the old Twitter as well to get links to all that good stuff. It's going to do it for us. Back again in a little bit with the once, future, and present Dr. Vix. What vol will we find lurking in the farthest reaches, the depths of the futures market? I guess you got to tune in to Twifo to find out. Back again tomorrow. I do believe the once and future Dr. Vic's doing double duty. He'll be joining us. You can't keep that guy out of the network these days. He'll be joining us on Vol Views on Friday. Who will also be joining us? I guess you got to find out. We'll probably break down more of this madness going up in VIX out there today. And then one final time for the week, exclusively for our pro friends coming back for a little bit of options oddities action. You want to learn more about all that fun. It's at 150 episodes on the Pro Q&A alone just this week. Well over 300 of everything else more. So you're close to 400 episodes on that feed now. You want to get access to all that goodness, only one place to go, theoptionsinsider.com/pro to learn more. And then we're back again on Monday, another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. Cboe's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Cboe Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively Cboe. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the Cboe products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.